Hi, everyone, and welcome to Fired Up. The Art Alliance for Contemporary Glass is a leading resource for glass collectors, artists, gallerists, museum personnel, educators, and others on all things related to glass art. It also provides a place for the glass community to have a robust conversation around glass art, and as well as the techniques, trends, exhibitions going on, scholarships, and everything that is going on in the world of glass art. At its core, the mission is to further development and appreciation of art made from glass. And for more information on the organization or to join, you can visit our website at aacgglass.org. Now, I'd like to get to our guest today, Cedric Major Mitchell. You are in for a big treat with this talk. I have heard him give a talk before, and it's incredibly inspiring. Cedric is someone that has been creative in some way or another his whole life and was in the music studio when someone mentioned glass blowing, and the rest is history. So we'll hear all about that today, as well as the incredible new work that he's been making in his many residencies. And if you have any questions as the program is ongoing, we'd like to please hold those until the end. But when the questions come to you, please put them in the chat so that I know they are there. And then we'll get to Q&A at the end of the program. All right, I'd like to turn things over now to Cedric Mitchell.
Thank you, Demetri, for that incredible introduction. I'm Cedric Mitchell. I'm a Los Angeles-based glass artist. I'm originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that's where I got my start. We're gonna get into this presentation, but bear with me. I've been up since 4 a.m. with a newborn baby, and it's still morning time, and I just had coffee. But everything's gonna be great. So I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna get started. Uh-oh. Stop sharing. I have to go all the way back. No. All right, sorry for that mishap. I'm Cedric Mitchell. The owner and co-founder of Cedric Mitchell Designs, which is a business that I started for myself in 2018, right after moving to Los Angeles, and quickly finding out that I was a business because I was an independent contractor. So I just went ahead and started my LLC and then just didn't really do much with it until the pandemic. As Demetra mentioned, I got my start in like my creative endeavors doing music. I was a local hip hop artist in Tulsa, Oklahoma, going by the name of Nuff Said. And in that time frame of like about 10 years I was doing music, I was really trying to like get into other creative endeavors. And at the same time, I was in school for business at Tulsa Community College. So, I was exploring different things. I've always been one who loved fashion. So, I was, drawing and sketching like fashion ideas and then taking these denim jackets and repurposing them and sewing patches on them and selling them in local stores in the area. I also took a painting class through the Tulsa Community College as an elective. And I figured, this would be my start, to drawing and painting. And it was pretty interesting. I was riding a bike at the time back and forth, around downtown. And then my instructor wanted us to work on 7 paintings at a time and ended up having to carry out my canvases each day on my bike. And they all fell on the ground one day in the rain. And then I just threw all the canvases in the trash and said, I'm done with this painting business. And also got into printmaking through a local art center in downtown Tulsa called Hardesty Art Center. And it was like a little gym that I found nobody really knew about. where they had these little classes that you could take for like $50, and there'll be like a weekend course. So I took a pinhole making camera class. I took printmaking, and I took a woodworking class. And during that time, I was in the studio, and I actually found out about glass blowing when I was recording a song with my friend Steve. And he was telling me about how his friend in Miami blows glass, and then how there's a local glass blowing studio downtown Tulsa, close to where I was taking those classes. And I could also sign up through the community college and take glass blowing as elective. So like without doing any research or anything like that, I just enrolled in the class at 1 a.m. in the morning and just left it at that and just wanted it to be a surprise. But to my surprise, I thought I was gonna be making like pipes and bongs. And then I showed up and my instructor was like, this is a nonprofit organization and we do not make, smoking devices. So if we see them, we'll break them. So on the right is like my first piece of glass that I ever made, which was a flower. And I showed my friends and they were all like, well, how do you smoke out of it? And I was like, you don't smoke out of it. Um, so this is me as a beginner. There's a lot going on here. Just me not knowing what I was doing. Couldn't keep my mouth closed. Had my goofy glasses on. But I was always like, wanted to do more. So as a beginner, as we're making like little small cups and things like that, I was just wanting to gather more glass and try to push the limits of what the material could do. And as a beginner, in the first 2 to 3 months, I was making like 2 gather pieces and vases like these here that you see. So while I was taking that class, the beginning class at Tulsa Glassblowing School, they thought I was good for some reason. I don't know, because I made a bunch of janky cups, and they were introducing me to degree programs. So I went to go visit a school in Texas called UTA, University of Texas in Arlington, which I really liked because they had air conditioning. And then I went to Hastings College in Nebraska, in which I love the instructor there, Tom Krieger. He's like an amazing person. And along the way, when we're journeying there, I read the book The Alchemist, and there's like similarities that I found in the book that related to me as well. Like the kid Santiago, like looking for this gold, his treasure, and then ended up working at a glass shop. And I found out that I should just follow the path of this book because it kept making notes where it said take heed of the omens. So I was like, let's just see where this journey in glass takes me. And then during my time in Hastings, these guys were making this 6-foot vase. So like they made this vase and they climbed up this ladder and they stretched it out. And then they did all this hard work and then it broke at the very end. And then I was just so excited. And I was like, I'm in. It's dangerous and it's, risky. It's right up my alley. So during my time at the Tulsa Glassblowing School, we had several different visiting artists who would come. So I had the opportunity to work with a bunch of different artists. The first one was Richard Royal, which he trusted me with a lot of things and let me narrate his demos. Richard Royal, Rob Stern, Pino Churchy, Davide Salvatore, and Scott Darlington were all visiting artists in Tulsa. And then, I think this picture right here is like a special moment for me, like starting out as a beginner and then fast forward, I'm teaching with Richard Royal next year at Pilchuck. So we're co-teaching together. So during my compound apprenticeship, I was really into books. So I was reading another book called Mastery, and it spoke of this compound apprenticeship, where you're basically, your life is a compound apprenticeship. So I found this guy on YouTube named Joe Cariotti. This was way before like Instagram existed. And I seen him like doing all these glass tricks and, bumping rap music and looking like the Beastie Boys of glass blowing. So like commented on these videos, these YouTube videos, and he actually invited me to LA. And before then, I found out he was doing a demo at the gas conference in Chicago in 2014. So I was like, I gotta get there to meet this guy. So on the left, you see an image of me working with Joe Cariotti during this demo. And then on the right, you see me visiting Los Angeles for the first time, where he hosted Danny White for a demo and a party. So in Tulsa, I have a lot of friends who are graffiti artists, and I'm like a huge fan of graffiti, just for the colors and what it represents for like the hip hop culture. And I'm also a shadow artist, so I didn't really have the skills to be like a graffiti artist or a muralist or anything like that. So I was like, how can I get close to this medium as possible? So what I started to do was make these glass spray cans, which actually my friends could hold their like spray caps in. And I thought it was like a genius idea, and it didn't really go that far. Also, we had a visiting artist, Nick Fruin, come, and he taught a casting class. And I was really got into like casting glass, only did like a few items, but this is like one of my favorite pieces. It was that people were pretty shocked when I brought a gun in. It was not a real gun, but everyone like freaked out, and I was like, "Hey, it's fake." But it's something that represents part of like my artist statement, which is just be gangster about it. Just instead of like having fear, you just kind of have to lean into that fear, because I believe that like love and fear can't exist in the same space. So you just have to lean into fear and then fall in love. And then Nick also, taught me a few things about using decals and incorporate decals into your work. So I came up with this idea like using this movie Juice to make like these juice cups, and I thought people would get this pun. And a lot of people did not get that idea until I moved to Los Angeles like 7 years later, and then it kind of took off. These are some of my pieces that I made in Tulsa. The quality of the material in Tulsa wasn't good at the time. We also had issues with the glass, and it was always like seedy or cordy, and you really couldn't make anything good for a certain period of time. So I just had to like use the tools that I had and come up with something new. So I came up with these like organic and cemented bowls. And the cemented bowl on the left actually comes from like a Jordan sneaker, that texture. And I just wanted to replicate that and try to put it in my work as well. And also during this time, I was working with a guy, Kenneth Gonzalez, who introduced me to like gluing parts together, just to like achieve scale. So I was like, making things to achieve scale, to stack things up, and then sandblasting. I used to sandblast everything. I was really obsessed with that. And then colors, using those bright colors that I would see all the time in like graffiti art and just like 80s and 90s fashion. So during the pandemic is like really where I like got my footing in Los Angeles. I moved to Los Angeles in 2015, and I kind of took a back seat for a few years just to learn from other artists and develop new skills like co-working. And during the pandemic, that's when I kind of like got scared, because I felt like it wasn't safe just like working for someone else, because if someone else's business goes under, then I'm out of a job. So I decided to utilize that LLC that I just had sitting there and create a Shopify store. So I took the Shopify free trial, had 30 days, found an app in Shopify where I could ship the work. They would shoot it for me. And then the turnaround time was like 24 hours. So I had a Shopify store up and running in 24 hours, and I participated in the American Craft Council pop-up, which actually helped me get a few customers as well. And I came up with these candles also, just to like enhance like a drinking vessel, a cup, cups, hand blown cups are pretty expensive. And it's kind of hard to sell one to someone when they can just go to Crate and Barrel and buy one. So I was like, wouldn't it be a genius idea if you could just have a candle, and when the candle burns out, you could actually use the vessel to drink your cocktail or your favorite beverage out of. And then a little backlash came from that. I was like, well, I don't want to wait. So I ended up coming up with a cocktail kit. So I added a mixing glass, an empty glass, a candle, and a cocktail recipe, and created a kit. So during that time, my Shopify store, I got noticed from Heath Ceramics. Heath Ceramics is a large ceramic house here on the West Coast. They have a location in the Bay Area and then a store here in Los Angeles. So they reached out to me to create some glass for their winter collection. So these are some images of the things I made, which, is pretty simple, like some bowls and some cups and a vase. And that relationship grew. So we've been working together for 3 years. Through them, I've gained a lot of opportunities. These images that you see here were featured in Architectural Digest. And another interesting cocktail glass, which came through a commission for a guy who wanted like a unique cocktail glass. So I made a bunch of samples, and I came up with this kinetic glass right here, and I was really hyped about it. I was like, this is the one right here. So I sent him the image, and I sent him the glasses, and he was unhappy about it. He didn't really like them. So I like posted him on Twitter, which at the time I didn't have any like followers on Twitter. I had like 50 people. And this thing got like 60,000 views in 24 hours, and people were like begging to buy these. So I was like taking orders and didn't really like have it all figured out. So I took orders, did the same thing, sent the product to the company, got these images, and then had them up on the site and had them going. So this image right here is like one of the most like monumental moments, which like took me from like being a production glass artist to making more gallery oriented work and sculptural work. I did a residency at the amphitheater at Corner Museum of Glass, a 5-day residency where I got to work with the team there. And it was an interesting time because it was COVID, and I had these ideas of making these really hard compound forms and difficult shapes to make. And, I was having a hard time because I couldn't have anyone blow in the pipe. They had this foot pedal system where the air blows into the pipe, and I really couldn't figure it out. So after one day of that, I had to like shift gears on the fly and then come up with something new. And inspired by a lot of the Memphis Design Group and Editori Sotas, taking that and then making these pieces that were inspired by like playground equipment. So this one on the left is 32 inches, and the one on the right is 28. And we created a lineup tool. They had one already there that I seen on YouTube where Lino used it from the old Stu Bin factory. And it's a large Encamo tool where you connect two parts together, but we're kind of limited in like scale. And the team there was just so incredible. Like the tech there, Jesse, he came up with this new tool. He like went in the basement and welded together this lineup tool and then brought it back up. And then we were able to like make a bunch of these pieces during my residency there. This image right here is last year. I had the opportunity to become uh, a gaffer in residence with Dante Marioni. Dante is one of my like heroes. I spent so much time as a beginner and just throughout my career watching tons of videos on YouTube of Dante blowing glass, him and Dick Marcus. So it was pretty fun to get to work with him and then have like an ongoing relationship. We still talk, and every time I'm in Seattle, I stay at his place. So this year, I started doing this thing because I do a lot of residencies in teaching. So I just wanted to like represent that with a tour. So to give people like a lineup. So the Hustle Glass Tour is what I started calling it. And it started off in March where I had a month-long residency at Corning Museum of Glass. And in this video here, you're gonna see a lot of the work that was made and the concepts that came out of the residency. It was an incredible residency, actually. I got to work alongside Tobias Moll in the same studio, share the same space, and we ate dinner together and went to the lake and shared ideas. I would classify myself as an artist, designer, maker, basically all of it. Currently, I feel more like an artist, being able to be here and to like create freely. So, like, how can I challenge myself as a maker? Because I believe that's what it is. I don't want to settle for be in a gray area. For me, that don't exist. Like, I just want to be the best in the world. My name is Cedric Mitchell. I'm a Los Angeles-based glass artist, and I'm originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So the time here at the studio has been amazing. First week was like a learning curve, so you got to kind of get used to the studio, get the lay of the land, figure out what's going on, know where everything lives. Then you're comfortable. You get comfortable in the studio, and then you start off with the things, the low-hanging fruit, the things you know how to make to get warmed up, and then you can just kind of get loose, and get wild and aim for the sweet spot. So I pushed to where, I'm breaking stuff, things fall on the ground, but I'm learning. So I'm collecting data, I'm trying new things, I'm doing something that's really hard, and then dial it in a little bit more, and I land in that sweet spot. So where, I'm really hitting the number and everything's going on center and it's just perfection. So like my style of work is basically I'm stealing like an artist. So I'm not ripping off people or anything like that. What I do is I think of like the people who inspire me the most. Now, what would I do with all those artists in the room and me leading the team? What would be made? So those are the ideas I like to think of and like plan out things like that, and then kind of create my style, which is constantly evolving. Whether it's being basic shapes, and combining those, doing compound forms, and then playing with color as well, like how to achieve patterns in these forms and shapes to build different compositions. I like the perpetual practice of, production. So that's a world where I come from as a production glassmaker and being able to get bench time and like training myself to actually make these things over and over and over again. And then sometimes during the process of making something, you see different things. So I kind of like take snapshots in my brain, like, ooh, that's cool right there. I catalog that for later. And get back to that, or draw it after I'm done. Like, this could be another thing that we can get to here. I've had the opportunity to research a lot while I've been here in the Raquel Library, studying like Scandinavian glass and, Swedish glass and combining all these things together and then, defining my style of what that would be.
So to be selected as a resident artist here at the studio is a monumental moment in my career to be able to come here for a month and make new work and develop new ideas and push the boundaries, so having that time to play and push things to the limit, push yourself to the limit, is great. So, being able to have that under my belt is a big thing, and a lot of people won't get those opportunities, so I feel very grateful in a sense of being here. And then, there's people counting on me. So I don't want to let people down. I don't want to let myself down. So being able to take this opportunity and just run with it, because it only comes so often. I'm new to the pattern aspect, but the colors just actually came to me just from playing. So a lot of times I just make a bunch of shapes and then I stack them and glue them together, or I move them around a bunch to kind of like use them as building blocks, like you would as a kid. If you were gonna build a tower or anything like that, you're using these little blocks. So it's going back to like where you had the most creativity, to be honest. So just rewinding back and being like playful in the sense of like creativity and then making these forms and moving them around. And then sometimes I orient them and I go in the hot shop and bring them up in the pickup box and then join them up hot, you know, because that's what glass blowers like to see. They like to see everything done in the hot shop. The thing that inspired me here during this residency is the health. The people around me and who I share my ideas with, the people who I share my ideas with, and who want to help me. The first week or two, Bill pulled me to the side and he's asked me, he's like, "So are you going to be doing in combos a lot while you're here?" And I was like, "Yeah, pretty much." And he's like, "I got this tool that you can use while you're here." So he gave me the tool and everything just started clicking, everything just started coming together. So having those tools, like the lineup tools that Bill helped me with, or the other artists in residence, Tobias, sharing my ideas with him with pattern, which I've really been wanting to do, to incorporate the pattern and give more life to the pieces that I've been making, give it a little bit more pizzazz. How do I achieve these things? And to see him get excited as well and want to help me like push those ideas, like maybe you should do like this, even though I might not get to all the ideas, I can carry them forward. So that's a real powerful thing there. You might not be able to capture everything in a residency, but if you have the ideas that sprouted, you can carry them forward. There's so many things. Like it's like the world is your oyster when you're here. Like you can utilize the facility and make just about anything.
So, during that month-long residency, I was pretty ambitious. So I was trying to make work for two shows, two of my first shows. So I had my first gallery show alongside Don Bassett, who's a plaster artist at the Vetri Gallery, and also had a gallery show at Heat Ceramics here in Los Angeles. So here's some of the pieces that are at Vetri now. Honestly, best work I've ever made so far. And the colors, are just still playful. They represent just joy, they're like architectures of joy. And then my show at Heat Ceramics, it was, just focusing on like an exploratory journey during that residency, and then trying out different techniques and patterns and colors, and using all that to display it in this show called the Object Lounge. We're just focusing on like different objects, and then I feel as if like objects are decorative objects are going to make like another resurgence here pretty soon. And then Kane, just trying to like play with Kane, and I've only done, a few Kane pieces in 10 years. I think probably solid 8. In this portion right here, we're going to talk about another aspect of my practice, which is my social practice. I work with Craft in the Future, which is a nonprofit organization that diversifies the field of art, craft, and design. And we work with different organizations like Pittsburgh Glass Center, Haystack, Corning Museum of Glass, Aramount School of Arts, and Pilchuck and Penland. So through this, through Craft in the Future, we offer scholarships, internships, residencies, exhibitions, and grants. Also, I'm the co-founder of Better Together, which is the event series, which me and Corey Pemberton founded here in Los Angeles, which started out as an event we were throwing for Black History Month. And it has also grown just various ways, and now it's turned into like event series and residency. So Pilchuck Glass School has honored to host a residency there for the next 5 years. We had our first residency there out of the 5 years last year. And here's a video from that residency.
It's really amazing to be here with everyone and to be with other artists of color, because I remember Googling like Black glass artists and like Google not really understanding what I was like. I'm also like the only staff member of color, one of the only members. So it's nice to come to something like this and see a lot of awesome people who I can connect with.
And I just didn't at that moment understand the value of like being in such close proximity to another Black maker or person of color. And I just didn't realize I would not connect again with people of color in my field for decades. Never even crossed my mind until it became this like void. I was always plotting my own course because like things that were available to, or the pathways for other folks in the field, I never felt like those were necessarily for me. Just like you, I always felt like a unicorn.
It feels really empowering and encouraging to be amongst you all and to feel like this is a real possible career path. I think for a long time it felt
like a lucid dream, like something that I just barely had a grasp on, but if I closed my eyes for too long, it would slip away.
And I think it's, very important for me to say like the reason why I blow glass. When I first started blowing glass, I Googled famous Black glass artists, and there was only three. There was Deborah Moore, Thurman Statham, and then Shay Rhodes. So I mean that was like the thing that solidified my role in glass blowing as well, and then wanting to create more opportunities and more reference points for others who look like myself. And also having an opportunity to work with these people. Shay Rhodes, he was there for the first Better Together event in Los Angeles and in New Orleans. And then Thurman Statham, he was there for the first Better Together residency that we had at Pilchuck. And it was important, thing there for him to share his story of, him being the only one always at Pilchuck, from 1971 on. And then, this summer I got to spend time with Deborah Moore at our residency that we had at Penland, and just sharing so many intimate moments with her was incredible. And the fun part of glassblowing in LA, you get to be featured in commercials like Fitbit, Nike, and Uggs. And that is my slideshow and my presentation. Thank you guys. And thank you, Art Alliance for Contemporary Glass, and Demetra and Howard and Susan for having me.
Thank you so much, Cedric. It's really inspiring that as you talk about your work, and you're clearly very driven and have a desire to be so good at what you do, but at the same time, you're also so socially conscious and wanting to uplift people with you. And, that's a quality that is, not as prevalent, as would be ideal. And it's just really admirable that you have taken the time amidst clearly your busy life, your newborn child, to also do what you do for the community. So I just really wanted to highlight that. And then Howard had a question regarding your next steps, and what is next for you?
Great question. I'm kind of treading lightly next year. So next year I'm kind of like, all right, let's rewind back. So I just participated in the AACG Emerging Artist Cohort, which was a 16-week program to help you like figure out your creative endeavors. And in that program, I've just basically figured out what I want, just from trying things and doing things, like doing 2 gallery shows this year. I did a trade show in New York at Shop Objet, because that's the business that, Joe Cariotti does. And then talking to other glass artists who deal in the gallery scene. And then just seeing, like what worked for them in that time period. And then everything is different, from the gallery boom in the 90s, and then also the wholesale trade show scene, which Joe, Cariotti took part in, is kind of like died out. So, and then having the opportunity to work with Hugh Ceramics and develop new ways of like doing things. So I just want to diversify everything in the realms of like doing some small wholesale production work, and then like creating a small scale production line of collections of glass that I want to do, and then focusing more on like gallery and sculptural works that are way more fun to make, and not really like focusing on money so much. So with that being said, I have 3 shows that I'm featured in next year. One in Chicago with the Chicago Art and Design Museum, and one at Blue Spiral Gallery in Asheville. And then I'm being featured in this triennial called Objects USA 2024 with R & Company in New York, which is also a company with a book. So just, doing those things. And I would actually like to create my own book as well, like to talk about the modern funk aesthetic, which is like a riff off of the Memphis Design Group, which that term came from one of my students describing the work that I made. And then we kind of just like created a narrative around it. And then, just keep creating those pieces and then just trusting the process. So, and then teaching, I teach next year at Pilchuck, and then already planning 2025. So teaching at Pittsburgh Glass Center and Haystack 2025, and would like to do a Euro trip. And go to like Abletop and then Paris and visit friends over there and those factories over there.
Well, it's good to see, you're taking it easy and not really filling your schedule too much.
Yeah, I mean, I want to work 4 days a week. That's my goal.
I think you're working 8 right now, but
Yeah.
so tell us a little bit about your relationship with Joe Cariotti, and do you work out of his studio in LA, or where are you making your work now?
Yeah, so I used to work for Joe full time, and then throughout the past 3 years, I just been scaling down. So I used to work 2 years ago, I worked 3 days a week, and then earlier this year it was like 2 days. And then I went on all my hustle glass tour, and then now I'm just full-time entrepreneur for myself. And I'll make my work out of Joe Cariotti studio, and then I have a studio space located in the studio as well. And it's located in El Segundo, California.
And if people are in the neighborhood, are they able to reach out to you by email and visit your studio, or
Oh,
how
for
do you?
sure. Email, Instagram, text message if you have my number. I'm always in the studio. I try not to be, but I always end up being in there. So yeah, it's always fun to have like a studio visit and have visitors come by.
Right. We have another question. Someone says, your work is amazing. I love the Memphis style influence. How did you learn about the movement? What are some other art movements or art history that have influenced your work?
Pinterest. I'm a big fan of Pinterest, and I found out about the Memphis Design Group just scrolling through Pinterest, looking at glass, and I was like, what is this? And then just digging deeper into research and then seeing what they were doing, and then just seeing how it was always in my life, and I just really didn't notice it. Like growing up as a kid in the 90s and seeing like these different the pattern work, the busy patterns. And then it was even in cartoons, and then some of the shows that I would watch, the different like crazy design patterns. And also 18th century glass. I did a lot of research in the Recall. Like when I say I was in the, I don't know. I think the librarian said no one has ever left this library with this many books, because I had 2 carts full of books, and they were like, "Well, how are you gonna get these books out of here?" And I was like, "Watch, I'm gonna just roll them out of here with these carts." But yeah, I discovered a lot of the colors in the glass pieces were prevalent in 18th century Chinese glass, and these like candle holders that they were making with bright colors, and it was an interesting find. And just to know that like, oh, it's already been done, but how can you take it and make an interpolation out of it and make it your own?
Okay. We have one more question from Judy Cushman, who is asking, do you see yourself as a glass artist or as a person who has ideas and glass is one direction to explore those ideas? Do you see creating in glass objects that are not just beautiful, but also carry a message?
Um, Both. I think, I see myself as a glass artist, but you know, when I first created my LLC, I named it Cedric Mitchell Designs just in case I wanted to explore some different mediums. Um, and then recently looking at some of the pieces I made, some of them could be a stool, like like a wooden stool or it's made of different things. So different design objects. And then also, you know, living in LA, glass blowing is expensive, very expensive, probably the most expensive anywhere else in the United States. So just exploring different ways to create in glass. So I've been really researching like fusing glass and then trying to make wall pieces and large scale works like that, or like tables, maybe getting them water jet cut, like fusing. I've been doing a lot of research on Claude Moyer, and I was researching him also when I was at Cornell, and like some of those pattern works that he was creating, and just trying to like figure out how to like incorporate it in different design objects. So like merging, you know, art and design together to come up with like different things.
And I think I'd like to add to that too, Cedric, is that you know, part of your message or narrative evolved simply from the very act of creating. Because as you said, there was only 3 famous Black artists that you could find on Google when you started. And so simply by creating and being active in the space and not only making yourself known, but doing what you can to uplift the community, you know, that's a big part of your message as well.
No, thank you. I mean, yeah, that is true. And yeah, I mean, like I could talk about like things with a message and things like that, but I mean, it's so many like layers to my life, like an onion, and stories that still are like untold, and which we've been filming like a documentary to like unfold some of those things. So there is like some things with a message and creating with a message, um, but like the social work that I do, you know, is I think that's bigger. And I've always felt that way. Like this thing that I'm doing is bigger than me, you know. I'm just the messenger here. Like I'm just, you know, one to help people discover. So just help people do things to discover things just like I did. And then using like crafting the future to help people do that as well. Because you know you can show people glass blowing, they might not always you know like it. I did a team takeover where I in Appalachian Center of Craft with Craft in the Future, and one of my students, you know, he gathered glass for the first time and put the pipe in the trash and walked out. And I was like, you know, what's going on? And he was like, I don't want to do this. Like I'm gonna go in the woodworking studio, but you know that was an important thing. You know, he found something that he liked. He found that he liked woodworking, and you know, he made like a shelf to like hold everything, like his valuables. And that's the thing, like just because in growing up, I didn't have like too many things that I was exposed to creatively, you know, and is either music or sports, you know. So there wasn't no creative arts centers or any creative outlets. And if you had any creative endeavors like that, it's kind of like looked down upon in the community that I come from. So, and then having a mom who always pushed me to like do whatever I want to do, you know. So that was important. And then her trusting me. And then I tell people as well, you know, when they talk about money and things like that, and it's not about money, it's about trust. You don't need more money, you just need more trust. You need people to trust you to do things, you know.
Well said. Well, it's been really inspiring to have you on the program, Cedric. Thank you so much for spending time with us today and sharing a little bit about what you do. A reminder that Cedric's work is available at Vetri Gallery in Seattle. You can also visit his website at cedricmitchelldesign.com. And please reach out to him as well if you're heading to the LA area and would like to visit him in person.
Yes, please.
I'll go ahead and stop the recording now. And then if people want to stay on to say hello to Cedric directly, you can do so.